Will this exhausted 9-to-5 employee wreak havoc in the realm of ducks? Or will he crumble to the likes of his own with his own terrible aim? Join me as I attempt to complete Escape from Duckov, where we will get crazy loot, take out strong bosses, and take some L's. I started my journey as an aimless duck with no face, aimlessly walking around to what seems like heaven. I was quickly tasked to customize my character, and you already know that I am going to make my duck to be one badass looking duck. I then woke up in the jail cell, lost. That was when I heard voices coming out from the speaker, telling me that it can help me get out of jail if I can be its partner in crime. I didn't really have a chance to say no, but sure. I then learned how the looting in this game works and also took out my first ever duck. I promise I'm gentle with animals in real life. I then remembered that someone told me that I can find the warden by the jail and decided to give that a go. Finding him was easy, defeating him was hard. I proceeded to die multiple times with his AK-74U until the one time where he fumbled and exploded himself to death. This was good news to me because he dropped amazing items such as the AK-74U, the sunglasses, a totem that increases headshot damage, and a white coat that makes me look badass. I then quickly wrapped up the tutorial and headed out to the green smoke to successfully escape from jail. I then woke up in this huge garage, which I can only assume it would be my base. I also spoke to Jeff, who walked me through what is available here: the warehouse to store loot, the construction panel to build things, the vending machine to buy stuff, and the enhancer to upgrade ourselves. I then looked through the available quests and took whatever quests I can, before heading up to Ground Zero to kickstart our first ever expedition. At Ground Zero, Jeff kindly reminded us that we can get extracted through the tunnel that we just came out from, or through the green smoke that we used earlier. I then proceeded to explore the map, scavenging for loot. This also meant taking out some hostile ducks. The highlight of this expedition was that I managed to get myself a good set of shotgun shells and arrows that fetched a decent price by the shop. I looted them and quickly headed back home, afraid that I would die. Back in base, I submitted whatever quests I could, registered blueprints to our workbench that would allow us to craft new items, and sold the shotgun shells and arrows for a good 5,000 bucks. We are rich. I used the money to upgrade ourselves by the enhancer, increasing my backpack capacity. I also got myself new armor from the vending machine for safer expedition runs in the future. Day 3 was interesting, as I felt like I had struck the lottery. Why, you might ask? At the early stages of the expedition, I managed to find myself a car battery that was worth a lot. The car battery was heavy, and got me an overweight debuff. I decided to leave the car battery by the donation box right outside our bunker and come back for it later. I then used the remaining time to complete the quest that I have picked up. That meant me having to become an electrician that fixes the signal tower, a courier that delivers mail, a hunter that looks for butcher knives, and an engineer that fixes bridges. While being someone who is wearing multiple hats, I also managed to find myself blueprints for a potato graphics card and explosive arrows. I also managed to find myself a metal barrel which is worth quite a bit. While attempting to explore the west side of the map, I chanced upon some mushroom-looking monsters that sounded intimidating. I took that as a sign to call it a day, heading back to the donation box to pick up our car battery and heading back into the bunker. Back in base, I turned in my quest and sold my loots that gave me the money to expand my storage. I also tried to build new facilities in my base, but I was lacking resources. Motivated, I quickly headed for our next expedition. Day 4 didn't turn out as expected as I didn't manage to get myself the resources needed to build any facilities, but I managed to get myself a shovel that allowed me to dig the ground for loot. I also blew up one wall by shooting an explosive that was nearby. Good to know that explosives actually do break fragile walls here. I then found a blueprint for an SMG called TOS-66, which to be honest, didn't interest me all that much. I also managed to get a purple gun attachment which I'm sure will come in handy in the future. I ventured around the forest path, but there wasn't much there. I did remove a stick that was blocking a gate, allowing me to get to the forest path much quicker in the future. With nothing much left to do, I headed back to the bunker. It is unfortunate that I did not manage to find any resources that were needed to build new facilities, but the money from the loots obtained still allowed me to upgrade my gun damage and accuracy. I also quickly submitted whatever quests I could complete and take whatever quests I could before heading out for another round of adventure. The purpose of Day 5 was clear: to get the resources required to build new facilities. This led me to loot a whiskey bottle and some decent quality ammos to sell for more cash. It also led me to obtaining an SMG extended magazine which I immediately attached onto my AK-74U. As I took the shortcut to Forest Path, I heard the mushroom-like monsters engaging other enemies around. Unsure of how strong they were, I decided to take a slight detour which led me to dug out a storage fence key. When I did not hear any more shooting, I decided to proceed further into Forest Path, where I had to place a marker by the tent to complete the quest. It is then when I chanced upon the mushroom-looking monsters, where I took them out pretty easily. Seems like I was just a scaredy cat. While scavenging for resources, I chanced upon this big white dude that looked like he could take me out with a single swing. Being the scaredy cat I am, I decided to leave him alone. I then found blueprints for a homemade shotgun and a circuit board, but still, nothing that I can actually use to build new facilities. To end off the expedition, I headed to the yellow bars by the road and picked up a pile of electronic components that Jess's friend had left. Weird place to hide electronics, but sure. If I wasn't getting any luck with scavenging, I had to find other alternatives. I decided to buy a scissors and wrench from the vending machine so that I can upgrade my workbench to disassemble items. I then disassembled my UV light to get an eco lamp, which was the final piece for me to build a weapon shop. To celebrate my first facility built apart from my workbench, I proceeded to get some attachments from the weapon shop so that my guns can go extra hard against these ducks. This meant equipping a SMG muzzle brake and a quick sight on my AK-74U. I also decided to build a tech center since I had the parts for it. Not exactly sure what it is for now, but I'm sure it will come in handy. I then wrapped up the day by doing the usuals, selling my loot for money, upgrading my skills to get sharper perception and a more durable head. Similar to other expeditions, I set out on day 6 with the main goal of obtaining the resources needed to build my new facilities. Spoiler, I didn't get anything. In fact, this was probably the lowest dopamine expedition thus far. While exploring, I managed to get myself a whiskey that I could sell for about $1,000. I also located this house which was owned by a gym bro who was trying to convince me to pick up physical training. He proceeded to give me a task of handing him 2 eggs for the gains. Like the true duck I am, I always have eggs readily on hand and handed them to him. He then requested for soda crackers, which I had to scavenge around to see if I could find any. FYI, I didn't find them. I also built a bridge that allowed me to cross towards the highway using whatever remaining wooden planks that I have. Having this bridge built meant that it would be easier for us to access to the roads in the future. With me exploring almost every part of Ground Zero and still not getting what I need, I decided to call it a day, and headed back to the bunker through the sewers by the highway, defeated. Back in base, I did the usuals, turned in my completed quest, sold my loots and upgraded my skills. To spice things up a little for this run, I decided to use the feathers that I've looted and tried my luck on getting new totems. I also realized that I had a level 3 armor and helmet in my storage and immediately equipped them for future expeditions. Frustrated with how I am still not getting any resources to complete my facility builds, I decided to focus solely on getting the required resources today. Day 7 started out well, as I found myself a rifle extended magazine which will be useful once we start using an assault rifle. I also managed to find another car battery. Guess we'll be having steak tonight with the money. I used the same trick as before and left the car battery by the donation box so that I do not have to suffer from the overweight debuff. I also managed to find myself a large hammer, which the description mentioned that it is needed for renovations. I then tried to swing the hammer by a cracked wall due to its description, which caused the cracked wall to break. With that, I immediately concluded that the hammer has to be part of our go-to essentials. While exploring the outskirts of the road camp, I spotted this unique looking duck through the fence and decided to take him on. You can tell that I immediately regretted my decision. I then took out some ducks that are of my caliber. That's more I like it. The outskirts of the road camp allowed me to find an expansion crate, a ferry ticket, which will allow me to fast travel to Farm Town, a red barrel, and a Chinese knot. This meant that we could end today's run with a lot of money, but without any of the resources needed to build the facilities. At this point, I was really contemplating on just letting it be and proceed with whatever remaining quests I could do. Thankfully, I managed to buy a portable hard drive from Xiaoming, which allowed me to build a teleporter facility in our base. I knew getting the tech center up and running would be handy. The teleporter allowed me to teleport to maps rather than through the entrance of the bunker, which I believe would be useful when we venture further into the game. I then made it a point to locate for a beacon so that teleporter isn't useless on day 8. While looking for it, I chanced upon Lightman again and decided to take him on this time. He charged towards me with his axe as I started putting bullets into him. With a few dodges, I managed to take him out. He then dropped a better axe, which would be a good addition to our loadout. I also found out that the unique duck previously was called mercenaries, and they were holding much bigger guns compared to the scavengers. Using the cover to block their shots, I managed to take them out. They dropped pretty decent guns like the Vector NMF. I also managed to find the beacon, but heard very loud footsteps around me. Deep down, I knew this meant trouble. I carefully picked the corner to make sure that whoever that was doesn't catch us by surprise. As the corner was clear, I quickly activated the beacon, and that's where the Ground Zero boss, Pato Chapo, appeared. His guns hurt, as his bullet got me to about a quarter HP. I quickly ran to cover before healing myself. Calming myself down, I proceeded to take him on to his duel. With the AK-74U doing quite a bit of damage, I managed to take him out after a while. Pato Chapo then dropped an AK, level 3 body armor, and many other decent items. Pretty worth it, I must say. In base, I received a familiar task the moment I submitted a quest that I had just completed, to defeat Pato Chapo again. I guess it will be round 2 tomorrow. I struggled to find the soda crackers to pass to my gym bro and decided to just purchase it from the vending machine since it was only 50 bucks. I also decided to pick up the MF as my main assault rifle until I find another gun that's better. I then spent some time getting some attachments for it before heading out for our next adventure. On day 9, I was mission focused. I first went to look for a pocket watch inside the truck by the sewer entrance and then went to the gym bro's house to give him his soda cracker. He then had the cheek to request for cigarettes. At this point, I think he's just using me rather than convincing me to work out. Cigarettes for bigger gains is a wild thing. As I was making my way to Pato Chapo, I chanced upon Man of Light again chilling by the corner and decided to just take him out as a warm-up. As I entered the compound where Pato Chapo usually spawns, I met up with a few mercenaries, which I quickly took out. One of the mercenaries also dropped an MP5, which would be a decent addition to our weapon storage. Shortly after, Pato Chapo's head popped out from the corner, and the battle began. The second encounter with him was actually quite manageable, as I just constantly looked for cover whenever he's about to shoot, until he slowly depletes in HP. With the key task done, I headed back to my bunker, because I finally gathered all the necessary resources to build the medic station. Took me a while, but I guess it's the journey that matters. I also decided to use the MP5 as my main SMG moving forward, where I started buying the relevant attachments to make it a duck shredding machine. With the number of quests starting to dwindle, I know it's time to move on to the next map, the warehouse. I initially wanted to quickly wrap up the final quest that I had in Ground Zero and make my way to the warehouse. This was sadly not the case because for some reason, I thought the cargo list was on the southwest of the map rather than the northwest. This meant I was looking at the wrong place and led me to not be able to complete my quest. However, this mistake led me to discover this area that was locked up, with a sign stating there's storm contamination past these metal gates. Not exactly sure what this means, but it definitely sounds dangerous. I also needed a level 3 JLab key to enter, something that I currently do not own. This mistake also led me to find a Desert Eagle, to which I was honestly very excited about, but spoiler, I've not used it even though I'm like almost 10 hours into this playthrough. Yeah. I guess even though I made a mistake, something good came out of it. So yeah, that's the first 10 days of my adventure in Escape from Duckov. I'll try to post a series of my 10 days journey every Friday, but yeah, let's see if it's sustainable for me.